BS on 2026 F1 season. Lads, this is round one of BS Patrol out on a mission here to make sure that we're going to tell you how it is, okay? And we're not going to go into it way too much just yet, but we're just going to go through in the percentages versus what we're expecting for this year. Now, it's round one, Australia Grand Prix, guys. So much excitement with this year. It's amazing. And we're going to go through all the rule changes here. And it's hard to know how much BS that people are just losing their minds over right now with all these rule changes. Because if anything has taught us anything in motor racing out throughout the years, whether it's karting or Formula 1, the percentages stay the same. The drivers and the teams figure out a way through. The top teams figure out a way through to get around the rules and regulations and not cheat. Okay, I'm not saying that they're cheating, no, but they find a way. And can this year be the year that it shakes it all up? Because the amount of rule changes we've had is outstanding. And I will say this, I hope I'm bloody wrong, because if I'm wrong, we're in for one hell of a year of racing. Let's get into it. Okay, lads, so we're going to go through the rule changes and exactly what we have in store. Plus, we're going to go into a lap of the track and check out exactly what the most important corner is for them and why. And maybe the cars might not behave exactly the way they want to. Now, we've got new engines, we've got new aerodynamics, we've got new energy systems, new overtaking tools, new cars that are smaller, lighter, more electricity powered than ever before. And if you listen to the hype coming out of the paddock right now, this could be the season that completely reshuffles Formula 1 like we just spoke about a second ago. It might be all the same. The rule book has been rewritten for this year. There's no two ways about it. I mean, they just threw everything but the kitchen sink at these rule changes, which is fantastic for us. And the playing field, at least in theory, has been wiped clean. In theory. And when Formula 1 wipes the slate clean, sometimes that's when some magic can happen. I mean, we even have Adrian Newey struggling right now, where the car's just not where he wants it to be. Now, I don't think Adrian Newey is such a major bluffer that he was 2.7 seconds off the pace in Bahrain for just covering up everything. That would be overkill. You'd be a half a second, maybe a second off. You wouldn't be slowing it down too much to not show and reveal your cards here. So guys, let's start. Okay. So number one on the board. Now we're on F1.com, Formula1.com website, guys. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I would highly recommend this website. They are the most legit and honest, okay? Every time I see or I hear a story that, I don't know, Kim Kardashian's going to be driving in Formula 1, you know, you'd see it on some stupid blog, and then all of a sudden I go straight to Formula1.com and just to double check everything, lads. Obviously I wouldn't be checking for that, but you know what I mean. It's definitely the best website, guys. They keep it legit. I'd highly recommend it to all people. If you need something fact checked, this is your website. So okay, so we're gonna basically read from the website here, lads, and let's see. So we're gonna put smaller cars. So let's see, the dimensions are definitely smaller, right? The difference between the front and rear axle is 200 millimeters shorter than last year, which is a lot. lads. It's a hell of a lot. It might not sound much, but you could have 2 or 3 mil difference and it could change the whole entire car. And when I mean change the whole car, in terms of the balance. So in other words, your grip would be affected. And then of course you have to also throw in the engine speed, okay? Because you may, let's say they, where we go? Hang on, let me get my mind straight. So let's say they did not change anything this year in terms of the smaller cars. And McLaren, example, they've got a good engine speed, top speed, with the grip levels that were attached in 2025. So it's, how would it come? Hopefully I'm doing a good job here of a comparison. It would be like a boxer having speed and muscle together. You know what I mean? They both can work gel together. Whereas if one's off, the speed might be off, you know what I mean? Or it just doesn't matter. The guy could have great speed but no power, but all of a sudden, well, he's just got nothing in the tank to throw at you. So I hope I'm doing a good job on that, explaining that. But so it's very important to have the balance right. So even 200 mil, which is, I mean, that's like the Earth to the moon change. And to throw a spanner in the works, because it really does, again, talking about balance of the car, we've got lighter cars now. I mean, this is just like the removal of the motor generator unit, right? And they're saying has played a part in being able to lower the weight limit. And smaller cars, tire dimensions, there's been a significant drop in the minimum weight from 800 kilos to 768 kilos. Ladies and gents, you can you can have the difference between being in, Jesus, you could have the difference of being in 5th position to 1st to winning a race with 3 kilos, 2 kilos. I mean, we're talking this amount, and we've got this amount. I mean, guys, what is that? That's 32 kilos. That is a phenomenal change. Now we're looking at the fresh aerodynamics now, lads. So you've got the front and rear wings have been simplified. The wheel covers have been removed and barge boards included that are designed to direct turbulent airflow from the front wheels inboard. The intent is to reduce outwash, the practice of pushing that turbulent air away from the car, often disturbing the car behind, and improve the ability for cars to follow each other. Well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, that one. So again, that does throw a spanner in the works, lads, in terms of, especially when you go to the high-speed tracks. You've got, Monza, Suzuka, Spa, especially in places like Monza, because you've got low downforce and you just sort of, I wouldn't say coast through the corners, but you don't have to lean very hard in the corners at Monza. So it's insane, man. It's wow. And then we got the new power units. So they're running on advanced sustainable fuels for the first time. So the V6 turbo hybrid has become a V6 turbo hybrid. Huh? But it's a very different power unit. Gone is the MGUH, a complex and heavy motor. And what are they saying? The battery is now allowed to be recharged with double the previous 4M per lap. And in tandem with the increased electrical power outplace that places a greater emphasis on harvesting that energy. So we did talk about this last week. So guys, it is like, no, this is where I want to talk about the percentages stay the same a lot of the time in Formula 1. In other words, the top teams will find a way through this, where this is the key here. Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, they've all been talking about these new rule changes. And even Verstappen was having a good go there recently. He was like, this is crazy. We're going to have to start slowing down in corners and then to have speed on the straights. He was like, what kind of rinky-dink stuff is this basically driving? Which you kind of see it. But I do think that the Red Bulls and Ferraris and McLarens, unless it's another team, but they'll find a way. They'll find a way where they don't have to lay off in the corners. Okay, the introduction of advanced sustainable fuels. Now, in tandem with the new power units comes a significant change of the fuel that will be used by the teams this year. Now, instead of fuel derived from crude oil or fossil feedstocks, advanced sustainable fuel is one where the molecules have to be extracted from an advanced sustainable feedstock. Now, I'll find out a lot more about this at the moment. I'm not completely up to speed on this one, I have to say. It also has to be a drop-in fuel, meaning they're designed to replace fossil fuels equivalent without requiring any adjustment to the engine. Now, yeah, okay, the fuel can definitely make a difference to your engine speed. No two ways about it. It's hard. It's going to be hard to know. It's going to be hard to know. The real test, lads, will be when they get to Australia this weekend. Plus, comparing the lap times from last year to this year, if it's the same conditions in qualifying. That's what I mean, in qualifying 3. That would be a good indication of how far off or how better it is. I mean, yeah, you've got higher... You've got the cars are going faster this year, but again, you've got lighter cars. You've got this, but then they've got narrower cars, so therefore they're going to be going slower in the corners. So yeah, we're going to have to just come back to that one. So we got straight mode, active aerodynamics. Straight mode is aerodynamic configuration that allows cars to reduce their drag, making them more efficient when accelerating up towards top speed. The rear wing continues to open a gap, just like it did when the drivers used DRS, but now the front wing also opens up too. The uppermost front wing element drops down at the same time the rear wing's top element does. Now, I think that's very cool, lads. I mean, in fact, you'd almost be thinking, why didn't they do this before, especially when they did the back wing? I mean, it makes sense, you know? If you're going to go the whole way, just go the whole way in. And why not get these cars on the limit? Because what you could also find now, we'll see now, but the fact that they're opening up their front wing should technically give them more speed, right? And therefore, if they go too fast up to a corner, they might lose a little bit of balance. So this will be an interesting one. Again, we're going to come back to this one. And the boost, lads. So while there is a rule change in certain ways, it is also an evolution of what was seen previously when it came to energy deployment. Boost refers to a driver being able to deploy additional energy that has been harvested whenever they choose. The boost button is free for use for drivers whenever they wish, in the sense that they can use it as both an overtaking or defensive tool, or simply to gain lap time whenever they see fit. It can be used all at once or spread across the lap, depending when they have the best chance to attack or where they are most vulnerable. Now again, just go back to, you see, I think this is a really interesting one, lads, because this doesn't actually mean that they're going to have an advantage. This could actually work against them. So just like we were talking about with engine speed, if they're going, let's say they're behind a car, guys, okay, and they're tucked up and they're going to go in for the slipstream, right? They're going to gain speed, and then all of a sudden they pull out. Now let's say they're at, Brazil. Just came into my head. Let's say they're going to the first corner in Brazil. Now, I think they're doing, 180, 185 maybe at the end of the straight before they slam on the brakes, okay, and go down the gear, change down gears. What you probably find here, you see, is that if they're doing 180 mile an hour going into a corner, if you get a slipstream, you could possibly do 183, 185, depending on your scenario, okay? Maybe even 1 mile an hour. But that 1 mile an hour, if you brake at the same spot that you brake on every lap without a slipstream, that can off-balance the car. Because again, it makes sense, right? You're going in too quick now into a corner. So it's like, car can't handle it. So again, this is going to be interesting. It's not just going to be about pressing the boost button and hoping for the best and seeing what's going to happen. They're going to have to, like a slipstream, plan it, make sure that they're going to have to slow down a couple of meters beforehand if they do get a top speed. Now, they're experienced enough to know this, but it's not all that what it's made to be seen here. So now we've got new track zones as well, which ties into what we were just speaking about. So what it's saying here is the changes above mean you will see different marker boards around each track compared to previous seasons. Where the DRS board became familiar, there will often now be a board marked SM, straight mode, that defines where a zone starts that the cars can reduce drag. There'll be multiple areas that around the track that these are placed, with 4 on display in Bahrain during pre-season testing, which fine. And on top of that, these are shorter zones for when race control deems there to be low grip conditions. Well, that's fairly self-explanatory. So we're just going to see they'll have their zones and they'll have to just tweak, find out where their strength is, where their weakness is, and then use that button mode to, like I said, attack and defend. Now, obviously, attack is they're going to go for a move down on the inside or the outside to try and get the guy in front. The guy behind, if you're defending, what they mean is, in other words, if you got a guy up your ass and you want to just, gain some or move away from him so he doesn't get you. Now, here's one I think is extremely interesting and fascinating about this. A tweak to the start procedure. So they're saying pre-season testing is not just an opportunity for drivers, but one such area became apparent during the first pre-season test in Bahrain, when we saw drivers having to sit for a lot longer at high revs before carrying out a practice start, as they needed to spool up the turbo ready to launch. Now, that could be a problem, lads, for the guys at the back of the grid. Now, if you've got, let's say, example, Oscar Piastri starting pole, he's the first guy to come along on the formation lap, stop on the start-finish straight, and wait for the rest of the team, the field to back up and slot into their position, right? So for the guys at the start, or at the top of the grid, they're going to be fine. They should have the time anyway. They should have the time to get the car into position and get it ready. Whereas if you're in last position, if this is going to be a problem for them, they're going to have to actually delay the start. The guy, the flag marshal at the back, is not going to be able to wave his green flag straight away and get the thing going. They're going to have to give the drivers some time here, because, again, you could have people stalling left, right, centre on the track. So this is another interesting talking point, which we're going to come back to. And qualifying adjustments, lads. Instead of 5 cars being eliminated in Q1, 6 will now drop out at the end. Now, obviously, we've got another team on board, so we've got 22 drivers now instead of the 20. So that makes sense. And then they're saying here, and the same will happen in Q2 when another 6 are unable to progress from that 15-minute segment. And that means Q3 remains as it was in the past, though it is now 13 minutes with the top 10 cars vying for front position on the grid. A bigger budget cap, and let's see, they're saying with so much that is different across all aspects of the car, what was a limit of 135 million for items including under the cost cap last year has been increased to 215 million, adjusted to 170 million English pounds, 199 million euro in the financial regulations, which teams are building and developing the 2026 cars. The power unit cost cap has also been increased from the previous mark of 95 million to 130. That's in dollars for the new power unit regulations. So guys, I mean, you can see they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this to try and jazz up Formula One, to try and make it more exciting for all of us. Look, I'm going to still, at the moment, unfortunately, stand by the golden rule that the percentages are probably going to say the same. And I don't want to be a party pooper. I just don't want people falling into the trap, and get disappointed that, oh man, the racing's the same again. Here we go. They all promise this, they promise that. Because people do get down and depressed about it. It's very understandable, I hope I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, oh boy, Oh boy, are we going to have some racing this year. Okay, lads. So, the Australian track. So, guys, it's a pretty cool track. Very scenic, very glamorous. Great start. And it's a good it's a good track to find your balance with low speed and medium speed corners. You're not going to find, you don't have high speed. You've got, okay, turn, what is it again? I'm just looking at it's turn 9, beg your pardon. That's a quick part of the track, corners on the track, but they're not high speed. So it's definitely very, very good to get a good balance of medium and slow and medium speed corners. I think definitely the most important corner on the track, turn 6, leading into turn 7. Why? Because at turn 6, you're going through, and then all of a sudden, coming out of turn 6, you're catapulting all the way through 7, down into 8, and you've got that big, long, windy section now. It doesn't look like a actual straight, but guys, it's all fully easy, flat for the drivers, so that's not going to be an issue. So the more speed you can gain, getting out of 6, that's the crucial thing. It's not about how much speed you carry in, it's about getting out, and the quicker you are coming out of turn 6, the faster they'll get through 7, 8, and then into 9, followed into 10, and you can pick up momentum as well. So 9 is not as important as 6 and 7, but you can at least, if you do get that run coming out of 6 and 7, you can use that, catapulting it into number 9. So it's going to be awesome, lads. I mean, this year is going to be just class. I think we're all on tender hooks. Predictions, guys. If there ever was a year where I can't predict, and even though I think, again, back to the percentages staying the same, and I think the top teams will find a way through, even though I am going with that, I will still go that there could be different top teams that we haven't seen up at the top for years. I mean, you could have Mercedes back. People are thinking George Russell is doing really well. We don't know yet. They haven't showed us everything yet, lads. You know, you could have Mercedes back on top. You could have Ferrari back on top. Hell, you could have Cadillac. You don't even know. It's so hard to know. It's so hard to know. And if it's anything to go by, the way people are talking about these engine rules, the car rules in general, it's all to play for. Ladies and gents, let's strap ourselves in and let's enjoy this. And we'll speak to you on Monday. I'll be back with the reaction from Australia. Ciao.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front, what a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Wow. Wow, and after that, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm awful at predictions. Horrendous. And I think we're living up to my reputation again this year. Thank the Lord, please, because, oh my God, the amount of overtakes in Formula 1 this weekend was insane. It was unbelievable. If this is what we're in store for this year,
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front, what a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, if the Australian Grand Prix is anything to go by, Formula 1 might actually be back, baby. And not even back in, the racing was really good sometime before. But no, this could be an actual new world of racing that you'd only see in karting. Okay? And I don't mean that in the usual hype train nonsense we hear every single year. You know the drill. New season, closer grid, best racing ever. And then 2 races later, somebody disappears into the distance and the championship becomes a mathematical exercise. But Australia did feel different. Now, I'm trying not to get carried away. I really am not. Because what we saw like in Melbourne wasn't just a race. It was quite chaotic. And wheel-to-wheel fighting, drivers charging through the field, safety car, rookies making statements, veteran, Lingblad, and then George Russell at the centre of it all. Because the Mercedes driver didn't just win the race, he led the Mercedes 1-2. And in Kimi Antonelli finishing second, that was absolutely beautiful, man. Like that alone, that's a statement. And when you look at the numbers, lads, you realise something even more interesting might be beginning, and that's where the real story can unfold. Now, okay, here's the thing. George Russell and Antonelli. Now, George Russell was 0.8 quicker than the third place qualifier. Antonelli was just 0.2 behind. He was 0.6 quicker than the guy in third. Now, I will 100% say that is a lifetime of time. Like, literally, lads, if that happens in karting or any cars, any class, your heart is sinking to the ground, and it is the most soul destroying, oh dear God, how the hell are we this slow, lads? Okay, honestly, lads, it's a lifetime. Even 2/10 is it's like the moon to earth, earth to moon. It really genuinely is. And it, a lot of people, I guess, because if you're not in racing, and I can understand this, if you're not in racing, that, oh, that doesn't sound like a lot of time, because it's like, I totally understand that. Problem is, when you are racing, this is what you're going for. I mean, you're going for like 1,000th of a second. A 10th can even be a lifetime, lads. This is what we're talking about here. Now, I mean, Mercedes, at the same time, the race pace was not there. You could see Charles Leclerc and Russell. I mean, wow, just the overtaking was sensational. It was unbelievable. Super exciting, super exciting. But the thing is, in qualifying, you can have all the pace in the world, and then you get to the race, and it disappears. Now, why? Different race setup is crucial. You have to have the car that will last I mean, it's a marathon. Oh, well, I guess what am I trying to say? It is. It's a marathon, an endurance race. It's not the one-time rock star lap here. You know what I mean? You have to have that car set up, and of course different tires, medium, soft or hard. Depends on what you're going for as well. So you're not always going to get it. I mean, if you're going into qualifying, you go for the soft tires, and you go for that one lap wonder. Now, you might go on to the hard tires for the race, simply because you need to outlast the other guy. Now, before we break down the race weekend, lads, here, I've got to get something off my chest here. Because during the weekend, I heard a commentary from Jenson Button that racing drivers don't like the simulators. Are you sure about that there, Button? I don't think you're right, somehow. He was saying that the drivers don't enjoy getting into the simulator at the factory and trying out. That's like saying a boxer doesn't like to go into spar and practice. Lads, I would imagine every single driver, I bloody hope, I would be all over. I'd be sleeping in the factory if I could, and I'd be on that simulator every day, morning, noon and night. And I think a lot of the racing drivers would too. Jenson Button saying that, again, another lie. So, okay, back to it, lads. So, right from the start, Leclerc kind of made a statement here, right? He wasn't on the front row. He surged towards and took the lead. He took the lead from Russell, which was it was brilliant. And that immediately set up a battle between the Ferrari and the Mercedes here. Really, the two drivers, they swapped positions. Wow. In fact, I don't even know how many times they swapped positions. It was incredible. Proper racing. This is the stuff you'd see in karting, lads. And Mercedes decided to pit both cars. Ferrari did the opposite. They stayed out. Now, this is where races can be won excuse me, I'm sorry, and can be lost. And because under like a virtual safety car, and any safety car, every second counts. It all does. Every 10th counts. And Ferrari, okay, you could say they went for it. Yeah, it was a bold move, but they had to try something. And look, lads, it's not that they're not good enough for pit strategy. They just got it wrong. Because once the Ferrari drivers actually pitted, the Mercedes cars returned to the top of the field, as we can see. And then, Russell leading, Antonelli right behind, and Ferrari hoped their tyre life would allow them to challenge again, but the gap didn't close, as we could see. And in the end, Russell wins, I think it was 2.9 seconds ahead of Antonelli. Dominant, pure dominance this weekend. What was it, 6th career victory, I think, for George Russell. And behind them, Ferrari, okay, they came in 3rd and 4th. Not too bad, not too shabby. Like, if I was Lewis Hamilton, the way he said, such a disaster couple of years, I'd be pretty optimistic now going into it, because even last year, now I know the the rules have completely changed this year, but if you look at last year, Lewis Hamilton won the sprint race in China, and we're going to China this weekend. And Max Verstappen started 20th, and he got up to 6th place, lads. Honestly, brilliant result, absolutely brilliant. He'll be happy enough with that. He really will. Now, what happened to him? Now, here's the thing I would say, is that Verstappen, which, to be honest, he wasn't lying here. He felt that the rear axle, the back 2 wheels, literally locked up, and that's why he lost and crashed, right, in qualifying. I kept watching the replay, and normally if the backs lock up, or if the axle locks up, the back tires will actually stop for that split second and then go again, right? In fact, sometimes they'll even have smoke coming out of the car, right? As we've all seen that. But I couldn't see any smoke. I couldn't see any stop of the tires, nothing. So it makes me wonder what exactly happened. Now, hopefully, we'll get more information as the time goes on. Probably not, because they probably found the reason or the problem with the car anyway, and they went, look, okay, done. Now, it was probably... God, it could be a million things. Something obviously happened to the back of the car, there's no question. But it didn't lock up for what I see. Now, guys, I tried to replay it. The camera angles weren't the best, so look, forgive me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. It just doesn't look like the axle locked up, though. I think something could have been like a wishbone, maybe, a ball bearing. That could have just got loose and therefore just made the car just jolt. I mean, it was certainly, there's no question about it, it was not his fault. Absolutely not. Verstappen was nowhere to be blamed here. Nowhere. Then we talk about Oscar Piastri. That was a weird one, lads. That was a really, really weird one. Because sometimes when you do go to certain tracks, the curb can, put you off, right? And in Melbourne, those curbs are not, they're not aggressive. They're not, I don't know what to say on this one. It was definitely weird. Now, he did make a mistake per se, but he didn't make a mistake, if you get me. Like, the car was bogged down. He didn't have the speed, and all of a sudden he puts on the gas coming out of the corner, and so the car just jolted, right? I get that. Now, it didn't jolt that much from what we see on the in-car footage, but I wouldn't be blaming the curb. I just think it caught him out. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because a lot of people are actually talking about the curb got him out. No. So, lads, we're going to leave it here today, nice and quick and short. But what a race, lads. What a race. First of all, the racing, brilliant. Qualifying, brilliant. These new spec cars, brilliant. It's just ticking the box for all of us, lads. And I tell you, if this is what we're in for this year, strategy played a huge role too, and it always does in Formula One. Drivers fought through the fields. Lindblad, great opening debut here for the young fella, in fairness to him. And in short, it was proper Formula One. It was proper Formula One. But the big question remains. Are Mercedes genuinely the team to beat now? No. I've been saying it, that the first round you get to see who's really on top. I did say for the preview of Australia, you'll definitely see who's at the top or near enough. But at the same time, it's a slow to medium speed track. So we haven't got to the Silverstones, the Suzukas, the Spas yet, where they're high speed, medium to high speed tracks. They're looking very good, Mercedes. But lads, we've seen this before too. And this is why Mercedes have been struggling in the last couple of years. Because even the last couple of years before these rule changes, lads, they'd go to Brazil. They were dominant at Brazil, right? And other couple of tracks as well. And then they'd be nowhere. And why? Because they had the grip and the speed and the balance, mainly the balance, okay? That's the most important part. The balance was very good for a Brazil type of track. Now, Brazil is kind of what? Medium speed track overall, I guess. You can argue me on that one now, but it's not high speed. It's not. And even then, their car wasn't necessarily perfect for medium speed, and that's why they did struggle in other tracks, because in Brazil, the camber and the camber of the corners, so the way the corners are sloped like this, that actually helped their car. So the camber was a huge part of their success at places like Brazil. So again, we can't bank everything on it. They're looking bloody good, that's for sure, because guys, 8/10, I mean, that's not like, well, their car is pretty good. 8/10 is like, oh Jesus. Because even if they struggle now at the medium to high speed tracks, that 8/10 might not be 8/10, it might be 2 to 3/10. Like they've so much time available to them, do you know what I mean? That it could dramatically shave down. Now, then again, this weekend has caused a lot of upsets. The cars have been acting very weirdly, as we all know. I mean, Jesus, I feel like a rookie. I'm like, what's going on with these cars, man? It's very bizarre. Everybody's learning. Even Jenson Button was saying that. Anthony Davidson, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but one of them was saying that, everybody's learning about this stuff at the moment. So you could see at China the next few rounds, Mercedes, yeah, maybe on top. But I wouldn't rule it out just yet for the other teams, especially Ferrari, actually. Ferrari looking bloody good. And it might just take the teams 1 or 2, maybe 3 races to just get the car bedded in, I suppose you could call it, warm it up, right? Or just fix the teething problems. I mean, hell, Jesus, even we see Adrian Newey, the greatest aerodynamicist of all time. Look what's going on with these fellas. I mean, these guys are just, it's almost like they have a Formula 2 car out there, a Formula 3 car out there versus the Formula 1. I mean, it's amazing. So it's great for us, no doubt. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there today. We'll be back for the China preview. Oh, can't wait.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Formula One. It never stands still, does it? Just when you think you understand the competitive order, just when you think you know who's fast and who's struggling in certain years, we're not about this year now necessarily, but something always changes. And a new upgrade, a new idea, a new concept, and then suddenly the entire story can shift. Now, we'd said this for the Australian Grand Prix. We still don't know, is this going to be the real deal? Is it? Has Formula One actually changed for the very first time in probably 30 years? This is what we're looking at, lads, because if the racing gets like this, like we saw at Albert Park, oh dear God, are we in for one hell of a year here, lads. Honestly, I'm always cautious because, again, it's always the top 2 or 3 teams that always find a way through these updates, these new regulations, and it can iron out after a few races. But, you know, I hope I'm wrong, guys. Please, please. And, you know, because right now, as we head for China at the second round, there are fascinating storylines unfolding at the same time. Now, first, we've got an even surprise. Ferrari are now bringing something unusual, a radical rear wing design, and there's something they're calling the flip-flop wing. Now, we'll get into that in just a moment, but a rotating rear wing concept that literally flips upside down to reduce drag on the straights. What the F? Innovation? Well, second, Aston Martin, I mean, a team that many people expected to explode. Now, I certainly did. Maybe you're thinking different, because they've the greatest aerodynamicist in Formula One history, Adrian Newey, and yet, right now, they're struggling. And third, China itself, lads, because the Shanghai China circuit is hosting the first sprint weekend of this season, which means less practice, less preparation, which is awesome for us, of course, and tyre strategy suddenly becomes a massive factor here. Really does. Engineering battles, tyres, aerodynamics, and the strange reality of Formula One, even where the great minds in the sport sometimes need to get it right.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.
Now, let's start with Ferrari. Oh, lads, this is very exciting, honestly, because Ferrari they're bringing something pretty bold to China here. And, you know, this wasn't just made last week after Albert Park and they went, oh, lads, you know, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. And then 4 days later, they've got it all ready made. These lads have had this in the making minimum 3 or 4 months. Okay, the design, it would have been in the, I mean, guys, we can go back to even like 7-8 months ago where they might have had, let's try this new wing, lads, and let's see what happens. Then they would have manufactured it. They would have put it onto the wind tunnel. They would have tried and tested it. If it didn't work on the wind tunnel, they would have deleted it, scrapped it, thrown it into the bin, toss it out, forget it, lads, waste time. But they've tried and tested this. Now, I've always said this, you could have the greatest update on a car. Have it in the wind tunnel. It goes tremendously well. And the moment it hits tarmac, it all just goes to pieces. And that's genuinely true, lads. No matter how advanced, no matter how good Formula One teams can get something, nature speaks for itself. The reality speaks all alone, standing, shouting from the rooftop, and it will tell you exactly where you are. But you can't blame teams for trying. They have to try these things. So even if they think, yeah, that's it, lads, we've got a shoe-in for this one, still doesn't guarantee anything. But it's going to be great to see, lads, because instead of the rear wing simply adjusting angle, the design actually flips its orientation completely and upside down, which creates a larger gap to airflow, reducing drag significantly. Now, again, this is all in theory. When the car is traveling down long straights, it should reduce the drag considerably. And if you look at Shanghai, this could really matter if they're getting this right now, okay? Because Shanghai's got one of the longest straights in Formula One. There's no two ways about it. And if Ferrari found a clever new way to do this, This could be the key. This could be the key to the chocolate factory, lads, for them. And Ferrari are experimenting. Now, sorry, I'll go just a half a step back. When I say this could be the key to the chocolate factory, they still have got to produce on slow speed tracks to mid speed tracks to high speed tracks, right? They still have got to get the balance right. But it could mean a huge advantage for them if they go to this track, which, to be honest, I would consider this a medium to high-speed track. It's not quite like Silverstone and Spa and Suzuka, but it's close enough, all right? You do have some, slow enough corners too, but it's a very flowing, free-flowing momentum track, and that's very, very important. And if they can get this done, it will definitely help them for mid-speed to high-speed tracks. And then they've just got to close that gap for the other slow speed. Now, Aston Martin. Oh, lads. It's genuinely, in a way, without sounding like an a-hole here, because I love Adrian Newey, this is very fascinating too. Because if you rewind the clock, everybody expected Aston Martin to become the championship contender, right? Now, look, like I said at the start, maybe I was the only one, but I don't think so. I mean, you do have the greatest man that's ever walked the planet with aerodynamics, Adrian Newey. The man behind who dominated at Williams, McLaren, Red Bull, and cars that just won so many championships, so many drivers' championships, so many constructors' championships. I mean, the guy just rewrote the rule book, lads. Cars that dominated entire eras of Formula One. So naturally, when Aston Martin brought Newey in, everybody just assumed, right? Everybody just assumed. But Formula One, it's not that simple, you know? Right now, Aston Martin, they're struggling big time, man. They are in the S. I don't want to say any bad words. Fernando Alonso himself, he's admitted it, the team still troubleshooting. Let's call it troubleshooting problems. The car is just not where they want it to be. And not the start the team wanted, clearly. And Alonso's been very honest about the situation too. He said they're basically at square one in terms of understanding the car, which is remarkable when you think about it, because even Adrian Newey needs time to iron out problems. So lads, if you think that if you're struggling in your life at a certain thing and you're really good, if not the best, even the best get this wrong sometimes. Okay, now lads, I just want to explain what downforce is, right? I saw an article there on F1.com, and Hamilton is explaining what downforce is. Now, maybe you love his explanation, maybe not, I don't know. But I think the simplest way, without any fancy gadgets or screens, the easiest way in the world to explain downforce is this. Downforce pushes the car to the ground with air. Now, what do I mean? Imagine you're in a road car. Okay, so let's imagine you're sitting in the back seat and somebody's driving along, and then you pull the window down, you put your hand out. Now, if you're watching on the screen, you'll see the way I'm doing with this hand, okay? Now, guys, we've all done this when we were even kids. So you put your hand out and you face it like this, straight into the wind. What happens? Especially if you're going faster, if there's a wind, you can feel your hand being pushed back, right? So like there's friction, there's a resistance. Then if you actually put your hand sideways like that, all of a sudden you can feel your hand almost even flopping forward depending on the wind, right? But you can feel the resistance gone, So in other words, resistance, you turn it sideways and there's way less. Now, why am I explaining this? Because what happens is, yes, that is just going straight back. But what F1 and racing cars have managed to do is to use that, we call it energy or force, okay? The wind resistance force. They've managed to use that resistance force that you have against your hand, and they're able to manipulate that to then push the car down to the ground. So imagine that resistance now on your hand. They've been able to use all that power and force to use it to push the car down to the ground. So they're changing the direction of that wind power to the ground, and it sticks the car onto the surface. And that's why if the more downforce you put on the car, the more resistance. So imagine this. If they're on a high-speed track like Monza, they use less downforce. They use very, very little downforce. So that's like your hand being like this, okay, sideways. Whereas if they go to a full downforce track, their hand's like that. So they want more resistance and more pressure pushed down on the car. That's what downforce is. I hope I did a good explanation. Now, one other thing I'm going to throw in here, lads, a spanner in the works, is that, okay, we're all over the place chopping and changing with rule changes and regulation changes, all that, right? We are. We still don't know. I mean, even the F1 guys that are pundits now, they're even saying we're all still learning, and we are. None of us know exactly what's going on with these cars, and if anybody tells you that they are on TV, they're flat out lying to you. Even Adrian Newey doesn't even know, okay? Now, if Adrian Newey can't figure out the cars yet, what hope do any of us have? So don't believe anything. I'm not trying to come across as an expert right now. Certainly not. I know my racing. I know the foundations, the basics, this and that. But when it comes to these cars and predicting what's going to happen, my guess is as good as yours, lads. Honestly. Because even at Albert Park, yes, Mercedes were dominant. But at the same time, that's only the one track. And I'll just quickly say it again. You've got slow speed, mid-speed, and high-speed tracks. So you can be great at one high-speed track, but you could suck at slow to mid-speed. And all of a sudden, you're nowhere. So we still don't know yet. Now, the spanner in the works. Lewis Hamilton. He won China Sprint last year. Now, some people may be saying, well, this is looking good. And okay, I'm still flagging it as, okay, well, something to look out for here. Now, it doesn't mean that he's just a genius around the track. He obviously did a very good job last year, but he had the car to deal with it too. And it's going to be hard to know, will he have that momentum as well? Because Ferrari are giving both drivers this year the equipment, right? Sorry, not even this year. What am I saying? They always give the drivers, like I've said this before, that Ferrari are really the one team that don't have a number one and a number two driver. They give both of the drivers, most of the time, pretty much the same equipment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as the exact same car. There is no such thing as the exact same car. I don't care whether you race karts, Formula Ford, 3, 2, or even Formula 1. It's always the same thing. You could have a car that's on the dyno. A dyno now is where they actually put an engine on a platform in their factory and they test the revs. They test the speed up and down. They do all the data analytics measurements. So it can perform very, very well, but you're still not going to get an exact torque, an exact horsepower, an exact top speed, an exact drag. Every engine, no matter what, is different. It's like saying every human being is different. I mean, I'll put it this way. Even identical twins are not the exact same, are they? They're not. They might look the image of each other, they might act the same, but there's always a tiny little difference. Do you know what I mean? Now, I know that's a weird comparison to talk identical twins versus Formula 1 cars. Believe me, I get it. But I'm just trying to give you a sort of an idea. There is no such thing as the same engine. So my point is this. It could be Leclerc or Hamilton at the top this weekend. If this new update they have works, well then, Ferrari could be the guys to beat this weekend. Now, they're also talking about the tyres that Pirelli are bringing to the weekend this weekend, lads. So, because there's a sprint, the drivers will receive 2 sets of hard tyres, 4 sets of medium, and 6 sets of soft tyres. Plus, obviously, intermediate and the wets, if that becomes a factor. Now, I'm just reading, beg your pardon, lads, I'm just reading what they're saying here. there's not really an update, really. I mean, look, it's the same thing. You can have. They're saying that they're choosing the C2, C3, and C4 compounds for the weekend. Okay, and obviously that boils down to the soft, medium, and hard tires. But again, it doesn't really matter what tires you use at a weekend. In other words, what I'm saying is it matters to the teams, but it doesn't matter. Oh, I'm doing a bad job of explaining this, I'd say. What I'm saying is that if Pirelli bring along these magic, right, secret Area 51 tires that are just going to change the game, it still doesn't guarantee that it's going to change the game, because the car still has to be able to adapt to these special magical tires. Do you get what I mean? So Pirelli can tell you all the facts, all the data that, oh, listen, Ferrari, oh, listen, lads, for this track, these tires, it's going to, you're good, man. You're going to kick ass. This is the key to the chocolate factory, baby. It still does not guarantee it. They can have a lot of data. They can have a lot of insight. Sure. They can have a good idea and get it right quite a lot of the time. Sure. Yeah. But if they start bringing along a new update like they are now, right? Now, guys, again, it sounds great on paper, this new feature that they have, the new update. But then it depends on what Pirelli are doing with these tires. Now, I don't think they've changed them much. I haven't, to be honest now, lads, because I'm sort of I'm pressed for a little bit of time here. I want to go on. I just read through this quite quickly. But if they have adjusted them slightly, that can completely and utterly alter everything. I mean, it's kind of like this, I know, again, another weird comparison. It's like if you're a tea drinker and all of a sudden you drink tea without sugar, all of a sudden, you've got 10 cups of tea a day, but all of a sudden somebody just does a simple little thing by adding 2 sugars to each cup of tea a day. Chances are what's going to happen? You're going to start feeling wired. You're going to be reacting differently. Then all of a sudden, because you're wired and reacted differently, then you start affecting other people around you. Then all of a sudden, then there's a ripple effect. I hope this makes sense. Maybe I'm talking through my ass, but it sounds logical in my head, all right? So give me some rope on that one. But this is the point, is that one little tiny change, and Ferrari have changed the thing already. So even Ferrari might get this perfectly right or get it perfectly wrong. Okay, lads, the track itself, it's a savage track. It's unbelievable. Honestly, this is one of my favorites of the year. Now, guys, it's bumpy. There's a couple of slow bends. Well, I suppose not really. Just maybe like turn 14 is quite a little slow. Turn 1, very, very tricky, lads. Very tricky to get all that right because it's one long flowing bend. 1, 2, 3. But it's bumpy. It actually reminds me of a track called Thruxton back in the day, where it's very high speed, especially out the back, you know, very high speed. But the most important part of this is that it's not about getting the top speed per se. It's about getting the balance of your high speed bends going through here and keeping it very, very smooth. If you knock off a half a mile an hour, hell, a quarter mile an hour, you can get crucified. Now, I'm kind of going back on myself here, right? So bear with me. You might think I'm sounding like a hypocrite here, but the most important corner here for me is 11 and 12. Now, that's 2 bends. 11 is left, 12 is right. But really, even though it's crucial to get a very well balanced car through those left, right, zigzag turns, okay? It's crucial. At the same time, that's what the standard should be. That's what the level should be for the drivers, okay? At the same time, if you can get the balance good, turn 11 and 12 sets you up for that long right-hander all the way down that big long straight going into turn 14. So if you can gather a half a mile an hour, a quarter mile an hour, even a mile an hour extra going through 12 and 13, and well, 11, 12 and 13, you capitalize big time going down that very, very long straight. So it's so important. It's so important to get that section right. But then again, it's very important to get, especially well, I mean, really, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're all very, very important because they all sort of tee each other up in many ways. So, guys, it's going to be an interesting track to see. And, I can't wait for this. Okay, so we're done, lads. We're done for the day. And I can't wait for this weekend. What about you? Are you excited for this? I would say I'm going to go predictions, and Peter, as usually, always gets his predictions wrong, but let's go for it anyway. Why not? For a bit of fun. And you can laugh at me afterwards anyway if you want. I'm going to go with Ferrari winning this weekend, Hamilton and Leclerc, simply because I think this track will suit them. The way Ferrari have been struggling for years trying to get grip in their car. In fact, I might even go back. They had too much grip at certain stages where they actually lost grip, if you get me. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right? So maybe that's a weird thing to sort of explain, but they'd so much grip, they lost grip. So the updates this year, I think, are definitely helping them because technically, at a base level, they have less grip, but they're using the same type of principles with this new car. And I think they're clever enough to know this. And look, they won the sprint last year. Okay, it was only the sprint, but still. And then they've got that long straight, man, down the back. And I think their balance could be quite well. Hell, I'm going to go with Hamilton for the win, Leclerc second. I can't even believe I'm even saying that. And I'm going to go with George Russell for third. Hamilton for the win. In the Grand Prix now, lads, we're on about. I can't tell, to be honest, for the sprint. For the Grand Prix itself, Hamilton wins, Leclerc second, George Russell third. What do you think? See you Monday.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move. Fifth all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.
Ladies and gentlemen, talk about F1 going nuclear. Are you joking me? It's gone absolutely nuclear. 2 races in, and the amount of passing, the overtaking. This is like watching a kart race. This is, what the hell is going on? Now, lads, it's all blown wide open here. I mean, this is incredible. If you told me there now a few weeks ago that a 19-year-old would win a Grand Prix, okay, yeah, of course it's possible. Of course, that's his job. But Jesus, this is Mercedes kicking ass, Hamilton, Leclerc, oh dear God, and Russell in the contention too. I mean, lads, what's going on here? Now, before the lights even went out in Shanghai, lads, yeah, the chaos, it happened like before the whole chaos happened. As we had 4 drivers unable to even start the bloody race, and McLaren, what the hell is going on? They're the world champions, constructors world champions, the drivers world champions, and yet both cars out even before the whole thing begun. But this doesn't make sense. Like I even talked about, Adrian Newey, the GOAT, the Ayrton Senna of aerodynamics, but 2 separate electric failures on the power unit side, 2 cars, 2 problems. Start for a team that came in as like defending champions here, lads. This is a nightmare of 2 weekends, and I mean, it completely reshaped the race before we even saw turn 1. Like at the start, we'd Bortoletto with a hydraulic issue. Alex Albon, who's supposed to start from the pit lane but couldn't get going. So before the lights out, 4 cars out. Now, lads, I've not been the greatest Hamilton fan, okay? I just didn't like him for years. But I gotta say, man, the humbleness he has now, especially after he lost the championship in 2021 with that last lap in Abu Dhabi, I think it's really humbled him, and I think the problem with Hamilton was that he had everything handed to him. Everything handed to him. And he just thought that was the way of the world, And you can't kind of, in one way, you can't kind of blame him for that, because if that's all you know, that's all you know. But really, the guy, he's actually quite a humble guy. You know, I got a lot of respect for Lewis Hamilton, man. I gotta say, you know, and his overtakes and his passing with Leclerc, even the two of them were on the pit radio like, this is fun. Like, lads, this is karting now, this type of battle. It was epic. Now, what would you say about Max Verstappen? Jesus, what in God's name, lads? What in God's name? Did you see his start? I mean, talk about just... I mean, the worst bog start. Oh, one of the worst of all time. And, like, he's a good starter, in fairness to him. But, wow, man, that car is really struggling. And you know what, lads? I'm delighted that I'm proven wrong again for about the trillionth time. Jeez, I can't get anything right. But delighted now, lads, that this is like, you just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, the world champion Lando Norris, done, toast. He's over, done, ridden off. Verstappen, ridden off. Now, okay. 24 rounds to go, or 24 rounds altogether, 22 to go. So, okay, maybe the lads can claw it back. It's not looking good, man. So, lads, very, very short podcast today. You know, 2 races into 2026, and Formula 1 is already delivering just bloody chaos. This is karting all over again. I mean, we've got Mercedes domination, Ferrari fighting like hell, and fair play to the two of them. You know, a rookie race winner, McLaren in absolute shambles, Red Bull in absolute shambles. You don't know what's going to happen next. Half the grid spinning or retiring. If this is what we're in store for the rest of the season, this place. Now, I'm always saying you always have to have slow speed, medium speed, and high speed tracks, lads, to have a good balance of your car. They look like they have a good car, very good car. This will be the decider now, because we're getting a good balance of the car now when we're going to all these tracks at the moment, because they're different variations, you know, the camber and everything. So I think this is going to be a real clincher, and I think this is going to be a very, very important point in Toto Wolff's head, because he's going to be thinking the same thing I'm thinking here with you lads. He's going to think, okay, is our car good enough? Because all it takes is 2-3 high-speed tracks, and you could be great on the slow to medium speed tracks. You go to the high speed, championship gone, done. And in fairness, lads, Ferrari, wow, they are absolutely on Mercedes' heels. Yeah, sure, the pace itself a good bit off, but when it comes to the race, you just never know what's going to happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I know, very short podcast today, but sometimes the less said, the better. You know what I mean? And, ladies and gentlemen, it was a special day, because for the first 2 rounds here, lads, we've seen something spectacular. And if this is what we have in store for the rest of the year, oh dear God.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from fifth all the way to the lead in lap one.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.
Ladies and gents, it's back. Here we go. It's before the month break, and we'll get into that why, this whole month break business and fragile ego on Donald J. Trump, and how this man can actually affect the World Championship of this year, and not only just for 2 rounds, 3 rounds potentially, that can completely mess everything up. This completely, I can't tell you how much of a ripple effect this has for the Formula 1 season here, lads. Now, we're going to get into it in just 1 second, but this is the preview of Japan. One of the great tracks of all time, one of the great tracks in the world right now. It is amazing track. So guys, we're going to talk about a few things, and the Trump business, and the track, and the most important part of the track. We're going to really focus on it today. Let's get right into it.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move. He's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from fifth all the way to the lead in lap one.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.
Okay, now, before we actually get into some F1 news, well, we're still talking about Formula 1 news here, but this whole Donald J. Trump and the Iran war. Now, lads, obviously, I do not talk politics on my podcasts, all right? But, you know, I gotta just say one thing. I mean, this whole business, it's pathetic. It's pathetic, them all going to Iran. What the hell? Oh, well, they have weapons of mass destruction. Didn't we hear all that crap for Afghanistan and Iraq? Same old rinky-dink stuff. They've got a nuclear bomb coming, all this blah, 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 blah. It's all the same old crap. Even before there's even proof of a nuclear bomb. I mean, the batting record here. Who's attacked America, the country? Japan. Pearl Harbor. Right, now, I'm not a huge historian here, so forgive me, but in recent history, Japan is the only country that's actually invaded the country, except for 9/11, right? But they went after them. But Japan, guaranteed we knew who they were, right? The Japanese. They don't. Was it really Bin Laden? Anyway, we won't get into that, but alright, if it was, fine. But it was 100,000% sure that Japan invaded America. And guess what they did? Then they went off and got them. Totally respect that, of course. With the 9/11, totally respect that, of course. It was a horrendous scenario. But this scenario, Iran's never invaded them. Never. Not once. But, hey, we got to go after them. Do you have any proof? Well, no. But we know they're going to do it. Do you? Jesus, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Anyway, lads, you can argue me on that one, all right? I'm not up to speed on this whole business, but where this is now, and by the way, my heart does break for all the Iranians that are dying. I mean, it's disgusting, it's disgraceful, it's horrifying. And now there's American troops potentially going over. Oh my God, man! I mean, so many guys are going to get absolutely cut down before they get to that island. Anyway, it's unreal. It's unreal. Heart goes out to all of them. Hopefully, this ends quick. You know. So anyway, all right, enough of war on that front. But here we go. Because of the Iranian war, we have a situation where Donald Trump may actually influence this championship. Now, here's why. Now, if you've heard me before, if this is your first time, especially if it's your first time, there's been a lot of times in the last 3 years where I do discuss that if you're good enough as a driver in a team, you'll find a way to win the championship. And I still live and die by that sword. What the problem is this year is that Donald Trump and all this Iran war stuff has now rippled effect into Formula 1, and we're now down 2 rounds. We're down Bahrain and Saudi Arabia now for the month of April. Now, potentially as well, if this war does keep going, we'll also have Bahrain at the end of the year. Or I'm sorry, Qatar. Excuse me, I keep getting them mixed up. So we'll have 3 rounds instead of 2. Right? In fact, let me just check it, lads, in case I'm getting this all wrong. So yeah, it's Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, guys, that are affected in April. Qatar is on the 27th and the 29th of November. Now, what it looks like to me is that those 3 rounds are going to be all fucked. Let's just throw it in there. Fucked. 3 rounds out of a 24 round championship. That's a hell of a lot of what would you call it? It's a big gap, okay? I can barely speak. It's a big gap. Now, I would give the teams and drivers that one 50-50 exception here this year, because all the teams are struggling like crazy this year because the rules and regulations have changed so much that they don't know where they're going. You know what I mean? If it was, and I always live and die by this sword, if you're good enough and stuff, you'll find a way. And I do think that the good teams will find a way to win the championship or just do better than they've done over the last few years. This year, though, it's just a lot harder. So many rule changes. I mean, it's not just 1 or 2 teams that are struggling, right? And then everybody else is totally fine. If you had 90% of the grid going fine, everything's all hunky-dory. Look, we're a little slow, but we'll just find 1 or 2 tweaks. Everybody's having that struggle with all sorts. The power unit, the grip, the overall grip, the consistency, everything. So when you look at it like that, you'd forgive this now, that it's such a rock that's thrown into the water here, that it's a massive shock to the system for all of them. Even Adrian Newey, for Christ's sake, the best aerodynamicist the world's ever seen, the guy can't even get the car to finish a bloody Grand Prix, and he's got 2 of them out there. They've no points. They have no points. So even the best get it wrong. So if there was ever 1 year that you'd forgive the teams and that they need extra little bit more, this is the year. And here's the thing as well. Because the championship can come down to 1 point. Like, we've seen this so many times over the years, right? Even when I was racing, that you could have, like, when I was racing in, let's say, karting was a good one, because you'd have about 15 rounds in a year, right? So that was a big year for back in my days. You wouldn't have had that when I was racing in cars, right? You'd maybe have 7, 8, maybe 9, but in karting, you'd have 15 or maybe even 16, right? So that would be a long year. And even we knew back in those days that even if you have a problem at round 1 or round 2, so let's say you're kicking ass, round 1, round 2 wins, round 3 you come along, you make a slight mistake or something happens to your cart or car, and boom, DNF, did not finish, right? And a lot of us drivers will walk away and say, well, look, it's still the start of the season, even though it's just starting to wind you up a little bit by bit, because you know in the back of your head that, oh man, we've got the pace, we're winning races already. If this comes down to the last round of the championship, and if I finish second instead of first, and I lose the championship because I made that slight mistake back in round 3, it's done. It's over. And even the early rounds, so this is my point, lads, even the early rounds, the early rounds are crucial. Every single round is so crucial to your whole championship and all of the above that you need to keep it going. You cannot afford any mistakes. Now, if you're going to make a mistake, have it in the early rounds, of course, all right? But you have to go in with the urgency, the high stakes, the focus that there's going to be 0 mistakes in this year. You know what I mean? There's been so many championships that have been lost in the lower levels, Formula 4, 3, 2, Formula 1, karting, for Christ's sake. It happens all the time because you can always trace it back, you know? And a lot of people on the surface, they say, well, John and Peter are going up for the championship at this round. It's the final round. Peter loses out by 1 point. But actually, Peter had 2 nightmares at the start of the year. But people don't focus in on that. But I tell you who does. The racing driver himself. So, lads, this stuff can come back and absolutely haunt you. You know, it's stuff you don't forget. Like even Oscar Piastri, I guarantee you Oscar Piastri, if you remember guys, he had a 31-point lead last year and they went to Baku, and Piastri, he just fell asleep at the wheel that whole weekend. And we won't go into it too much, but I think he had such a nice lead that he just relaxed. The fear was gone for that weekend, and he just fell asleep at the wheel. So he didn't break under pressure. He just nodded off into La La Land, Dreamland, and he went into the wall. Now I guarantee you that race weekend still haunts that boy to this day. That's just the way it is. So when it comes to Trump here, these 3 rounds, well, we're going to say 2 for now because we definitely know it's 2. This could decide what happens this year. And it doesn't come down to the teams or drivers necessarily because of all these changes. Again, we're giving them a bit of slack here this year, right? Because so many of the changes. But the President of the United States, I can't even believe I'm saying this, could actually decide the Formula 1 champion of 2026. Now, okay lads, enough of that. So there's 1 or 2 talking points I want to talk about before we get to the track, right? We're going to go through the track, what the most important corner is, why, the nature of the track, the nature of the beast, we'll call it. But before we get there, I want to talk about this, and this really did surprise me here. There's on F1 News, Formula1.com, lads. Great episode. It's great. It's the best website out there. I would highly recommend it to everybody. They don't lie on here. Okay, we've got at Aston Martin here. We've got the 3rd driver, Jack Crawford, will take part in the opening practice session at the Japanese Grand Prix. So Alonso is going to sit out FP1, and Crawford's going to take it. Now, from FP2 on, Alonso will take control. Now, you may not think that's a big thing, lads. Okay, and I understand, that's fine. But when you're a racing driver, and when you're struggling this much, as in Aston Martin are, this is... No. Sorry, do you know, Jack, we did promise you there a few weeks ago, and it's in your contract, but I'm sorry, dude. I'd literally rip the contract up in front of him. Dude, I'm sorry. I'll get you in the seat in the next few rounds. We got some work to do here, all right? I'm sure you can understand. And Crawford would understand. He would absolutely 100% understand. Lads, Aston Martin are up against the wall. They are up against the wall here with their fucking pants tied around their ankles, handcuffs on, hands tied behind their back, and they're still trying to work on their car. When you get into this situation, you do not give any opportunity to give another driver the seat. And I can't even believe Adrian Newey is allowing this. I'd be jumping in right now and saying, no. Lads, they haven't even finished the first 2 rounds. So you need all hands on deck. Because they've got serious problems in the cars, lads, as I'm sure you know and you've seen, right? So this is, gloves are off, all hands on deck. You don't want Crawford jumping in. You want the guy who's actually has been in the seat for the whole year already, Fernando Alonso. Now, look, maybe something has happened with Alonso and they don't want to go private. Well, I doubt it, because Alonso will only be jumping into the car a few hours after him anyway, so he'll still be there. But unless it's something like an emergency, fine, fair enough. But we don't know. But I'm going to assume it's definitely not. You don't put him in. You don't want any chances. You want to have Alonso in the car. He's been there since day one. Let's fix the vibration. And because Alonso also knows what to look out for here, right? Alonso has been driving the car. He knows what that vibrations that they've been struggling with. And we all know the vibration that Alonso and Stroll have been dealing with since round 1. I mean, the guys said that they can barely drive the car, right? Now, yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that there's vibrations in a car, but Alonso would know how long it's going to last for. Does it ease off at high speed or low speed or mid speed, or he'll have a read, he'll have a tell on the car and its behavior, and that's what you want. And also, Alonso will also know that when he gives feedback to the engineer, that he'll know how the engineer reacts. The engineer is going to know how Alonso reacts to certain situations, and they'll be able to remember, oh, Fernando, do you remember saying at round 1 when you went out for practice 3 and you said that it acted really well? And then if Alonso, of course, yeah. But Crawford doesn't have that, right? Now, guys, look, like I said, it might not sound much, and in reality, it doesn't, because it's only one session. But I'm telling you, this is a bad idea, having anybody jump in, because this is too casual, man. This is way too casual. I would not be letting the guy in. Crawford does not know what the tell of the car is. He'll be in all the simulators, everything, absolutely. But he's not been driving at round 1. He's not been driving at round 2. He doesn't know the feedback, the connection between both. Bad idea. Okay, well, enough of that. Let's move this on. So, we're looking at the tyres this weekend. So I'm just going to read out a couple of things here, and I'm going to explain things as I go. So they're on about what tyres will the teams and drivers have for the Grand Prix. Now, after the opening back-to-back in Australia and China, the paddock rolls on to Suzuka, and the tyres, Pirelli have confirmed the compounds. So Pirelli are providing the 3 hardest compounds in the 2026 range. Hard ones. They're giving the C1, C2, and the C3. C1 is the hardest, C3 is the soft, and obviously C2. And right, drivers will get 2 sets, okay, 2 sets of the hard, 3 medium, and 8 sets of the soft, okay, that's fine. And an extra set of soft is reserved for those who reach Q3, okay. Now, they're also saying that the Honda circuit was resurfaced ahead of the 2025 event. Yeah, well, sometimes you can resurface a track, lads, and it can make a difference depending on the material that they lay down. But Suzuka, look, most Formula 1 tracks are going to do a bit of a resurface or a revamp before the drivers get to a track, right? They've got a year, you know. It's not like they're going to Suzuka twice in a year. Suzuka will be on the calendar every year, but they'll always make improvements to the tracks. Most of them will anyway. And so the resurfacing of the track, it's not going to make a difference in terms of if there's going to be a difference. If there's going to be a difference, whether it's quicker or slower, it's irrelevant because everybody's in the same conditions. So, now, in these conditions, it's normal to expect some graining. So, guys, graining. Now, basically what graining is that you've probably seen it if you look at the Formula 1 tyres when the drivers come in off practice qualifying our race. And you can see there's kind of like extra material sort of bubbling on top of the tyre surface, right? You know, you can see tyres where they come in at the end of a session and they're really smooth. Well, that's good wear and tear of the car. But if you can see sort of, you know what I mean? Like there's layers. You can see like it's like somebody put stuff on top of the tires, right? If I'm trying to do a good job of explaining it. But what's happening is that the tires are not getting the best. They're not getting the best use out of the tires. Now that can come from a factor of things: the suspension setup, mechanical, aerodynamical. Okay, that's pretty much mostly that's what it boils down to, because that's the backbone of your handling. And really the mechanical, that's you've got your ride height, sorry, I'm getting brain fart. The springs, right? You got ride height, springs, camber, caster, and then there's other type of things. The roll of the car, and then to complement the car, really the extra kick you'd look at it and you'd treat it that way would be the aerodynamics, the front and back wing. But it's all revolved around the mechanical setup of the car. That's your backbone. Okay, so really with the graining, that it's going to be affected by the mechanical. Now the aero setup will maximize or minimize a setup that you have, if that makes sense. Or sorry, here's what the word is. It amplifies. God, I'm doing a really horrible explanation today, I think. Sorry guys if I am. I'm doing my best here. I must be tired. It'll amplify the problems you have in the mechanical grip of the car. I think that's probably the best way. All right. So that's not going to... With the temperature of the track, that's not really going to make an impact. And just before we get on to the actual track itself, lads, they're saying as well that, well, with the nature of the setup of the cars and the the material of the tires, what they're saying is that with the S-bends at Suzuka, so you go through turn, well, now we'll go through the track in a second now, lads, but you go through turn 1 and 2, then you're going straight into the S-bends, right? You've got the left, the right, and then left up again the hill. So they're saying that the transition of the car is going to affect the tires. So when they're going through those left and rights, now if you just see my hand again, I know, aren't I so advanced with technology and AI that I'm using my hand? But basically, you're going into a corner and you're going left, right? But you have sharp turns, sharp movements, right? So if you're going into that left, the next right-hander is coming up very, very quick. So you're going in left and then boom, straight into the right. You've no time to breathe between those corners. Now that's called a transition. Can it do it quick, right? And you can lose a lot of time there, or you can gain a lot of time there. Now, the way these guys have their cars set up, they're not gonna lose that much, right? I mean, it's not a mountain. You could, of course, hey, you never know, and it depends. But it wouldn't be the deal breaker in general, right? Now, look, maybe I'm wrong because it depends on how the cars are behaving in the cars, but I don't think it is, because you can still make up time around the back. Yes, you could lose a lot of time in those S-bends, but your car could also be a massive dynamite going down the back straight, and we'll talk about that in a second, and that's why that's the most important area. And you could kick ass going through there into 130R and then gain all that lap time back. So, but again, you could argue me on that one, and yeah. So, with the transition, they're talking about a lot of the graining can get affected there, or the tires can overheat. Well, again, it comes down to your mechanical grip. So you can have a stiffer chassis. You can, in other words, when the chassis is stiffer, there's less roll of the car. Now, I was only explaining this on the just last Monday about the roll of a car, right? So, guys, if you imagine if you're in your road car right now, and if you're driving fast and you go into a right-hander, and you're going so fast that your whole body and the car dips to the left, right? So it goes the opposite way. And then if you're going into a fast left-hander, all the weight goes to the right. So when it leans onto, let's say if you're going into a right-hander and it leans onto the left, now, yeah, you can get a lot of grip